Like, it take a real motherfucker to get sober.
Entrepreneurship is a mindset. It's not necessarily what you do. Because I promise you, if you're doing it for the right reasons, you will be okay.
What do we know about trauma scientifically? It changes the chemistry in the brain.
We can relate to one another, you know. That's why this camaraderie is so awesome, because we just get it and we don't judge.
You can't fight new battles with old tactics. Your thoughts become your words become your actions become your character becomes your destiny.
What do you want to be remembered by when you're gone? What's Grounded, fam? It's your boy Johnny Gio. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Grounded Phoenix podcast. As always, the purpose of this channel is to express vulnerability and expand awareness to addiction, trauma, and mental health. Joining me today is my boy James LaRusso. What's Grounded, homie?
What's going on, man? Thanks for having me, brother. I appreciate it.
Of course, man. Of course. I'm really excited to get to know you in particular, just because I know you are a coach for confidence and transformation, to build people up and to really help people maybe even figure out their purpose, which is one of those topics that I feel like is very important in life, in the world where we just kind of don't know what it is and how to figure that out. Because for me, I know I read a post earlier that you posted on Instagram, and I was like, "Damn, that's deep. That is super deep." And I'm gonna read that. I want to get into that later on, but I want to read that just so people could kind of realize that it's not exactly what you think. But to start off with, bro, I saw on your Instagram that you are or you were a DJ.
I like to call myself a bedroom DJ nowadays, but I do, some friends events and weddings and parties and stuff, but I'm not like at the club or at festivals and things like that.
Oh, okay. Well, were you at festivals before? Is that what life was like? Going into the rave scene? That was me, the plur life, the whole shuffling and everything. I can't shuffle to save my life anymore, but...
Yeah, I definitely wanted to be that while I was out there doing my thing, but I didn't have it dialed in yet. I actually started using music when I got sober as a sense of like therapy, to be honest with you. DJing was like really therapeutic for me. It gave me like an outlet. So I actually started DJing probably a few months before I got sober, and then it's just been a really good, healthy habit and hobby for me since.
Cool. So it hasn't really gotten in the way, because when you're a DJ, you're kind of like exploited to music, women, drugs. Like, is it a trigger for you in any way? And if it's not, how are you able to cope with like that environment?
To be honest with you, dude, it's actually quite the opposite for me. What I've learned in recovery is I can go anywhere and do anything I want as long as I have a purpose and intention of being there, right? And so I go to Burning Man every year. I've been to Burning Man 7 times. Me and my wife got married at Burning Man.
Wow.
And I love going out there, and I love going and playing at, different camps and stuff like that. And it gives me, I'm in my bubble. I'm in my safe space. I have a purpose. I'm providing, experience and entertainment to people.
Right.
And so, yeah, like it's actually quite the opposite of that, which has been really awesome for me, because I don't feel, I've had people offer me stuff here and there, but because I have this going on here, I don't need to partake in anything. You know what I'm saying? I'm just kind of in it with the music, and I can provide that experience for the people enjoying it.
That's awesome, bro. And how much time do you have clean and sober?
So I just picked up 6 years on October 5th.
Wow. Congratulations, man. Thanks, a huge milestone. So how'd you do it? What's the recipe, man?
Well, dude, I got to give all credit to God. You know what I mean? That's been the biggest thing for me is bringing myself to space where I could trust and lean into my spiritual principles, and having something, I always had a God complex before I got sober. I thought I was in control of everything, and, I can do whatever the hell I wanted to do with no consequences. And really just looking at like everything that I got, I earned, I made it happen. It was never any credit to anything outside of me. And so, having something that works in me and through me, like my higher power, has been huge. And then honestly equal right there with that is like having a solid community of men, but also women around me that can support me, man. Because everybody in my life prior to getting sober, it was very transactional, very consumer mentality. Like, what do you got for me? Okay, cool. We could be, you're either giving me something for me to be in relationship with you, or I ain't gonna be messing around with you. You know what I mean? And now it's more about contribution and being in fellowship with people.
Right. Right on, brother. What was the transition like from that old mindset and the way of life till now, and how are you able to maneuver through that?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think in the beginning, right, it was just, I was a drunk. I was also a heavy crystal meth user, dude. And so like, what was hard for me was transitioning out of, I'd be up 3-4 days at a time, man, and like life being a lot more slow paced, right, and life being a lot less like peaks and valleys, like just getting used to life being a little bit more like middle of the street. And that doesn't mean it's boring, but like that transition was the hardest part, was just understanding that life isn't always going to be, and it's just staying sober those first like 6 months, 9 months, 1 year. That was like my full-time job, man.
Yeah.
It was just that, it was just getting a solid foundation under my feet. And that was the hardest transition, man, because I had to leave a lot of people behind, and I had to leave a lot of things that I used to do behind. I came from kind of a crazy background, dude. You know what I mean? As far as the things I was doing while I was out there, and just the people I was running with and the things I was doing. And so I had to really recreate my life, from the ground up.
Big time, brother. Well said, dude. So these relationships that we used to have, I know it's so hard to break, because in a way it's kind of like our comfort zone. Like, it's very familiar to us, aside from like the physical bond we have to the addictions, the substance. Do you have any like methods or ways that help you kind of disengage from those relationships to make it easier, looking back now?
Yeah, man, I think, the best way to answer that question is, I know even the people I was hanging out with back then, they're humans, right?
Yeah.
They have a heart in their chest just like I do. They got a brain in their head just like I do. And they want to live something with their life. But I had to remember that, like, when there's certain people that I'm hanging around with, if they're not growing with me, they're literally just anchoring me where I'm at, And so there's been people that I've let go of in the past that I have then sparked a relationship with later down the road, and it have been interested. Like, dude, I've seen what you've been going through, or seen what you've done, or the transformation that you've made, and like, you enroll people into who you are when you can let go of them and what they're doing and your interactions with them, and then start doing something different. And the people who are meant to move forward with you, maybe they will, I mean, I have friends that I used to get loaded with that I'm tight with now, just because of the experiences that they've seen me go through, and they're inspired by what I'm doing,
Right on, dude. Yeah, same here. I still have people that I used to snort lines with, that I kick it with. But like you said earlier, when you DJ, you're there for a reason. You're there for a purpose. You're not there to get loaded. You're not there to party. You're there to provide a service, to have people enjoy themselves. So when I kick it with these friends, I also used to play basketball with them. So I play basketball with them now, but like when they're rolling up a blunt, or they're bringing out their tall cans of Modelo, like, I'm cool. I'm just here to play basketball. So I think that's important to note, because they are humans. They do have a heart in them. And just like you mentioned, there's some people that I ball up with, or, they come to me like, hey, dog, like, I want to put the drinks down. I just don't know how to. And, most of the time they're drunk saying that, but just the fact that it's in their mind, and I'm just like, through all my experiences and just like through the way that I move, like, they're open-minded to it now, instead of me just saying like, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. It's just more through, like, they're just saying like, okay, it's like a vibe that we put out in a sense.
Well, and I think we found those people when we found those people. Well, we found each other when we found each other back then, because we needed something, and it was just easiest to get it from another person that was kind of with us, because somebody who was like me today might not understand, right? And so I'd fear talking to somebody. If I talked to somebody with 5 years sober, like 10 years ago, I wouldn't trust them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'd be like, you're fucking crazy. You know what I mean? So like, it's also, I think that's, we find the people that we need to justify and validate what we're doing at that time. But then, in a moment of vulnerability, that's how I got sober, is in a moment of vulnerability, I said, like, I need something different. And I had the right person there with me at that time to help me start down that path, instead of going down the same one I was already on,
Right on. How did you build this trust with these people that were 5 years, 2 years, 10 years sober?
Man, I think what really helps me is honestly just hearing from people. It's the similarities, right? Like, not the differences, because a lot of the people that I've met, nothing similar to my past, nothing at all, except for the using and the pain that using brought me. So, the people that just were willing to get vulnerable and real with me, man, I a lot of people that I know in my world now, they talk about vulnerability being the greatest strength, and so when I hear people talk about vulnerability, when I hear people get vulnerable and talk about, like where they were at when they walked in the room, and I can relate to that, and then I see that they have 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, it helps me see that that's possible for me. Just like, when you got Tony Robbins talking about how he was like poor living in an apartment, and now you see him, being a multimillionaire, changing hundreds and thousands of lives. He gives you that connection to like, well, if he can do it and he was where I'm at, that means I can do it. And it gives you a little bit of a hope, because hope was not a word in my vocabulary when I was out there getting messed up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, bro. Very well said, dude. I know for me, man, I was very anti AA, NA, like the 12, like the steps to me was like, man, fuck that cult. Like I'm not trying to get into like this whole religion type of thing, because I had like this point of view of like God and all that. He had let me down so many times before. I'm like, I'm not gonna get into something like this. So I kind of had my own method of recovery, and I think I started accepting God and the 12 steps ideology more once I started being more spiritually fit and really growing within me and tackling on that trauma that I had dealt with, which basically was like the fuel to my binge drinking, my cocaine use. And so I think that when I go into meetings, or, because I'm not a full-blown 12-stepper, but I do have a lot of friends in the community, and I actually recommend the 12 steps to a lot of people because everybody's different. What I say to them is definitely pay attention and focus on the similarities rather than the differences, because one thing that I remember is that, I may have never been homeless. I may have never shot heroin, but deep down, if they say, the body is your temple and it's your home, like, and I didn't feel comfortable in my skin, then essentially I was homeless, like I didn't have a home. So like that's a message that I really want to get out to people, coming from somebody that was like, fuck that cult. What is I'm sure you go to meetings often, and you probably have seen people roll up that are just like, they're either court ordered or they don't want to be there. What is like an approach you would do? What is an approach you would say to somebody that's like, that doesn't really want to be there?
Yeah, man. I think the most important thing is like, if you're not ready to get sober, you're not ready to get sober.
Exactly.
And I don't say that because I want you to experience any more pain, but what I do hope for people that aren't ready is that they experience the right amount enough of pain to come back into, whether it's AA, NA, any sort of recovery space, and be ready. Because I know for myself, dude, I have a very high pain tolerance, and I had to be at my wit's end to get right, and you see it. I mean, the reason that this stuff is a worldwide pandemic and it continues is because I think addicts and alcoholics are really strong people. They're really strong-headed. Yeah. They're really strong people, and they can withstand a lot of pain, and unfortunately, sometimes they never humble themselves to come in here. But if I had somebody that was unsure if they were ready, man, I just kind of asked them, like, then why are you here? If you're here, something ain't working for you, I mean, we always joke around, like, nobody comes to, 12-step programs because they won the lottery or they're on a winning streak, you know what I mean? Like, this is the last house on the left kind of deal, you know? So, yeah, man, I mean, it's, we just got to remember that we got to right-size ourselves, man. We live in a really big world, and I think our heads as addicts and alcoholics, or anybody who's just maybe using too much, whether you identify as an addict or alcoholic or not, like, our heads get really big, and we think we're in control. We think the world revolves around us. And I felt like that before I put booze or drugs in my body. I was very egotistical as a kid even, and I just had to remember the world doesn't revolve around me, and like, go try to stop a wave, man. Like, you ain't gonna stop it, and so I had to remember I wasn't the powerful one, I wasn't the almighty one, and I had to right size myself a little bit. But when I do that, the beautiful thing is I get so much I get so much from the world that I'm able to give back to all these people, you know? So it actually, the more I humble myself, the more, you know, my God or my higher power inflates me with the ability to help other people, which it's like a paradox. Like the more power I give away, the more power I get, kind of deal. You know what I'm saying?
Right on, dude. I think that's probably the biggest gift in sobriety I've ever gotten, is to have the ability to give back and help others in the ways that I never could have in the past.
Yeah.
One thing I want to get into right now is something that you actually really want to talk about, is just the amount of resources there is now in the community. There is, even if you don't necessarily think you're ready, but you don't know that you want to stop or that you can stop. Just because I feel like we're programmed, like, subconsciously, you know, like through conditioning of like society and ads, TV, all of that stuff. We're taking in all this information. Sometimes we don't even know that that's not even us. That's just programming. And I think that by listening to podcasts or looking at other people's stories and their shares, whether that be through Instagram or meetings or podcasts, it can really help us rewire that train of thought and maybe keep us open-minded as to like, hey, maybe that can be me too.
Yeah, man. I mean, dude, this is one thing right here, like podcasts, you know, primarily podcasts, but, you know, like there's so much out there, so much content to absorb, right? If there's one thing I've learned in the last 6 years is that, like, we are constantly collecting evidence for something, right? So it's just, what are you collecting evidence for? Are you collecting evidence that, like, you're a worthless piece of shit and you just want to keep getting fucked up? Or are you collecting evidence that, like, you're a powerful and worthy and lovable human being that deserves to heal and overcome your trauma? You know what I mean? Like, that's what you have to look at if you want to see it. And things like this podcast, you know, inspirational, you know, Instagram stuff, you know, things like that. Those are great places to start, because you can start to plant that seed and, like, listening to other people overcoming stuff. And it's not going to fix the problem. Like, this podcast isn't going to save your life.
Exactly.
But it might be the one thing that you need to hear today to be like, I'm going to do one thing different. One thing, that's it. Just one thing today to start moving in a different direction. And then that's where you have mental health, you know, advocates out there, and you have all the different types of treatment centers. I mean, I'm not here to say that AA is the only way to get sober either, man. I mean, it worked for me, but there's tons of different things out there that can help people get sober. And you know, it's all there. You just have to want to find it. And I think things like this are the first thing that, for me, it wasn't a podcast. It was just a human form of a podcast. It was another person that had gotten like what you have or what I have at this time, and been like, yo, dude, like, this is where I went, and this is how I felt when I went there, and this is what came of it. And I was like, all right, like, I'm going there then. And I checked myself into treatment, you know, and one thing led to the next. Right
on, brother. Very well said, man. I want to get into transformational coaching and building confidence in somebody, because I'm not a coach, and from what I read in your bio, that's what you do. You like to help people build their confidence.
Yeah, man. I got a couple different things I do. Coaching is one, and sober companionship and sober coaching is kind of the other avenue that I'm going in as well.
That's awesome, brother. Can you kind of like talk about a little bit like the process of like building someone's confidence up, and why is that so important for somebody that's either in recovering or was an addict or is an addict, or just, you know, a regular, I don't know, let's say social drinker?
Yeah. You know, I think if specifically for people that are in addiction or alcoholism, right? There's this like lack of self-worth. I feel like this is like pride in reverse. It's like I'm super prideful, but I actually inside feel like worthless, right? It's like this weird thing that we do in our head. At least I'll speak for myself there. But what I had to realize was that everything underlying all the decisions that I was making were stemming from fear. Right? It was stemming from some sort of insecurity or fear of being found out or fear of not being good enough or whatever it was, man. So when I was able to get enough time, you know, sober to where I didn't have to sit on my hands anymore to not get loaded, it was like, okay, well, why did I get sober? You know? And then that's kind of when I started finding transformational work. And it was about recreating my mindset around not only what I want out of my life, but who I am as a human being. You know, who do I be? Like, we're human beings, right? Not human doers, right? So who do I get to be? You know, and what is my purpose on this planet? And then I started to realize, that my purpose, I used to think all those years, like 13, 14 years of getting loaded, was a waste. It was just such a waste of time. Like, I can't believe I spent all that time just burning my life to the ground. But what I started to realize was, like, all of that pain that I was experiencing was my purpose. Like, I can help people in a way that I'm uniquely qualified to help people in a way that other people aren't, because of all that shit that I walked through. You know, like the white picket fence, you know, and this isn't any sort of judgment on anybody. I'm just saying the white picket fence, perfect, you know, not divorced parents, no addiction in the family, went to college, got a great job, is killing it at life. You know, you can help me when it comes to certain things in the professional world, you know, but you couldn't help me with the shit that I'm able to help other people with, and vice versa. You know what I'm saying? So that's, I think, what's beautiful is everybody's experiences in their life, like, their pain is their purpose, right? And that white picket fence person, they probably have pain that they experienced in their life too, right? Maybe it was that they got told constantly what they needed to do, what they needed to go to school for, and they're going to break away from that job and start their own dream company doing what they truly love to do, or whatever it is. Everybody has a pain, and that is what your you know, the universe, if you will, is giving you that pain for a reason, and that's for you to identify what your purpose is so you can launch into that in your life. I mean, look at the most successful businesses in the world, dude. It all stems from pain. I mean, you know, even I watched The Social Network the other day, again, for some weird reason. And even Mark Zuckerberg, like, the reason he started that first little thing, if you've seen that movie, was because, like, some chick dumped him. And he, like, went on his blog and was talking about, like, you know, like, he was, like, bad-mouthing her. But, like, he started this, like, facesmash.com thing to, like, pair up chicks from colleges so people could choose which one was hotter, all in spite of her. You know, but it started, like, that started his shit. Like, it was all this pain he was experiencing, like, fueled him. So, I mean, and then there's much more, you know, inspirational things that people have done from pain, but even, like, weird things like that. Everything starts from pain, dude.
Right on.
You know?
I think a lot of it has to do also with, like, your perspective on, like, the way you look at things that are happening to you at the moment, right? Because like you said, you know, you're collecting evidence, and, like, it's up to you to decide how you look at that evidence, because you could turn that evidence, whether that's your pain or trauma, like, you could turn it into something purposeful to help and be of service, or you could turn it into, like, some sort of victimized mindset programming for yourself to stay stuck in where you are. So
yeah, I mean, perfect example. We're literally recording this on Martin Luther King Day, so it's like, you know what I mean? Like, perfect example of turning pain into purpose, you know?
Right on, brother. Well said. So purpose, like, you know, let's get a little bit more into that. How does one find their purpose? Like, we know that you can find your purpose through pain. That may be, like, the one recipe, like a secret recipe, but how is someone build the strength to, like, take on that pain and really, or maybe change their perspective on it when all they have is this victimized mindset and all they're doing is filling themselves up with this pain and just finding comfort in it? Because I was one that was, if I got dumped by somebody, I was listening to those sad songs and I was just marinating in that shit. And I was like, oh, I love this sad feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. I laugh because, one, I've been there, and two, I think it's necessary to actually experience those things, though, right? Like, it's not about avoidance of your emotions or downplaying them. Like, man, if you're sad, be sad, like, feel it. And, like, process it and grieve that emotion. And, like, the same way you do when somebody passes away, man. Like, some people hurt for longer, right? But, like, when you feel a feeling, like, feel it, grieve it, and then, like, start to just live your life in the light of that thing, right? Just like you do, like, when, you know, somebody passes away that you love, you look at, you grieve it, it hurts, it's painful, it's sad. And then, like, as time goes on, like, you live your life in honor of them, right? And do it the same with your emotions. Like, if you're sad because somebody, you know, something didn't work out in a relationship, well, look at yourself and say, what was it about me that didn't allow this relationship to work out? And now live your life in the face of that and be that next best thing, or whatever the equation of your life is. If it's not a relationship, maybe it's a job, or maybe it's sobriety, or whatever it is, you know, maybe it's starting your business or having a kid or whatever it is, you know. There's
various ways to turn that pain into your purpose, and it doesn't have to be this huge, extraordinary event. You know, it could start off with, like, something small. For example, I think one thing that really helped me build my confidence, and I felt some sort of pain through, was working out. You know, like feeling that physical pain of like, well, for one, like, I don't want to do this. For two, dealing with like being sore. And three, just being consistent. So like that constant buildup and learning all of these things and then building the confidence to do it, it gave me like a sense of purpose and built myself up. I want to read this post that you posted because on Instagram, because I just found it to be so deep. And I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and she was like, man, I don't know how to find my purpose. I don't even know what it is. And I saw your posting out, and I sent it to her, dude, because she's
Nice.
big. She's like, thinks like this. There's like this one purpose and like this one thing that she set out to do. When in reality, I think your purpose could be multiple things, not just one. Some can be greater than others, but I think there could be multiple purposes. Now, please forgive my middle school grade reading, but this is how it goes. It's note to self. What is my purpose in life? I asked the void. What if I told you that you fulfilled it when you took on that extra hour to talk to that kid about his life, said the voice. Or when you paid for that young couple in the restaurant, or when you saved the dog in traffic, or when you tied your father's shoes for him. Your problem is that you equate your purpose with goal-based achievement. The universe isn't interested in your achievements, just your heart. When you choose to act out of kindness, compassion, and love, you are already aligned with your purpose. Look no further. That is deep right there, bro. That is so deep to me because a lot of times we feel like the things that we gain or that we achieve, we think like, oh, well, that was my purpose. When in reality, just doing the kindest things, just thinking of other people other than ourselves is a purpose within itself.
Yeah. Yeah, and not always looking into the future like what is my purpose and who do I have to be to get there? Like maybe it is looking at like, okay, well, what have I done up until this point? You know, like, you know, because let's say, I mean, we don't have a time watch telling us when our life is going to end, right? And if I'm constantly thinking I'm not living in my purpose and what is my purpose and I have to find my purpose, we're scrambling and we're not looking in the present moment of like, well, what have I already accomplished? You know, like what have I already provided for this person? Like, you know, what have I done today? You know, like, I mean, who have I paused and just said hello to and like asked about them and how their day is? You know, maybe my purpose today is not what my purpose is tomorrow. I believe everybody has one purpose that's in common, and it's to be a kind and compassionate and loving human being, right? And that seems to be the hardest one for people to understand, you know, because we're all wrapped up in our own shit, you know. But if we just exhibit kindness, love, and compassion to one person today, then I would say you're at least working toward figuring out who you are and, you know, what you're supposed to do while you're here. And what I've learned is when I do those things, more is constantly being revealed to me as I move through my life, you know, and I'm continuing to learn more about myself and others, you know. I'm far from having it all figured out. I still make massive mistakes. I'm still, you know, I just went and met a new therapist today, dude. Like, I'm constantly, like, you know, there's new shit being fucking brought up constantly, and I'm constantly working out, you know, why is this happening? But it's not about thinking like, why is this happening to me? It's about why is this happening for me, and how can I do something with it, you know?
Damn, brother, I love the way you put that, man. This is amazing, dude. I really want to thank you for coming on, man. Appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
So before I let you go, I kind of have to, you know, give you the signature question, which is, I believe that there's 3 things in life that are guaranteed and they're marked in our gravestone. And that is our birthday, the day we pass, and that dash in the middle that represents the way we led our life. So, James, what do you want to be remembered by when you're gone?
That's super powerful, man. And I love this analogy because it's been presented to me in other ways in some of the work that I've done before, and I think it's powerful because we don't think about it very often, like what's going to be on that gravestone, you know. And I think it's even more funny because it already says it on most gravestones. It says in loving memory, right? Ooh. But I think I would want mine to say is like in memory of loving, you know, and then just like I want to be known as somebody who loved with an open hand and loved without limits, you know, and provided people something to make them smile on a daily basis, you know. I think that's the biggest piece of the biggest gift you can give the world is that, you know.
That's an amazing answer, dude. I think somebody once told me, and they were like, man, I don't want to be remembered for the things that I accomplished. I want to be remembered for how I made people feel.
I'll never be the same.